Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Gronk Juice, and here's what he has to say. Hello Sandman, I want to get an answer on a rather strange question that I feel only has the worst answer. I have very little interest in other people being a sociopath and all, but I took interest in two, a niece and a nephew. My nephew views me as an informational god asking me all kinds of questions pertaining to science as well as social subjects. My niece, however, has claimed me as her own property. I am the first and foremost important person when I'm around, and she follows what I say like a puppy dog. She is 10 now and starting to show signs of becoming a princess. I loathe my sister-in-law and know that this is her doing to some degree. Also, my nephew is a bastard by definition, so I use him as an example for not doing things you don't want to do, because even if you get lucky and find someone that will not destroy your life economically, it still changes your life unexpectedly. My question is this. Since I have tried so hard to make sure she wouldn't become like her mother and become a woman that forces a man that doesn't love her to be her husband through sex and forces him to pay for everything, she is a stay-at-home mom living next door to her parents. My sister-in-law is trying to form her nature into something that can benefit both her and her future husband. Am I now going to start fighting an uphill battle? Also, I do have my mother on my side on this, since both of us keep talking about how evil the woman my brother married is. Well, Gronk Juice, thanks for your donation as well as your topic. I'm going to make the assumption that when you said future husband, and that when you called your nephew a bastard, that means your brother is now divorced from her. If that's really the case, then you're the one that's the closest to your former sister-in-law. Then you also need to start thinking about doing some good for your niece and nephew. The truth is, the most influential person in their lives is their mother, and the second most influential person will probably be their stepfather, if that's the case. Number 3 is your brother if he's no longer together with her, followed by your mother and then yourself. You are level 4 or 5 and their mother is level 1. There is no way to have a big influence at all in this case. She's raising her children the way that she wants them to be, and gosh darn it, if your niece is a princess, it'll probably only get worse. What I find really interesting in this situation is that you being a sociopath still have a connection to these kids because they're your own flesh and blood. You want to fight for them and raise them the right way, but they're being used against you like a weapon. Have you ever stopped to consider the bonding experience you've had with your mother because of this? After all, your brother has these kids to take care of and support, but if you're going your own way, then your own mother could be manipulating you using your own feelings for your niece and nephew, and making her life better into old age. You might not even be aware of this. This makes me worry about what could happen in my own life if my brother ever has kids. I could be in the exact same position as you someday. With regards to the whole princess thing, girls outgrow that at a young age and move on to something else. If she hasn't, then it's the mother's responsibility to make sure she does. If I were you, I would carefully and just in passing make your sister-in-law aware that girls her age, 10 or up, or that are still into princess fantasies, might actually have some developmental issues. But with regards to princess, I'm assuming you mean spoiled. But as you mentioned, she's probably just seeing her mother acting like a princess, and your niece is simply following suit. Raising kids is not so much about talking to them as much as we think it is. It's more about them seeing our behaviors and actions, and what they see us doing in their formative years is what they'll probably be doing when they reach adulthood or teenage status. They can't help it because their subconscious mind pushes them in that particular direction. I don't think your sister-in-law is trying to turn your niece into something that will actually benefit her. By raising her as a princess, she's going to create a daughter that's dependent on her mother for money because your niece will probably do very little for herself. Your sister-in-law sounds like a real piece of work, getting her own parents to help raise her children and then eventually making her own kids codependent on her and preventing them from growing up. She sounds like a user and a control freak, but you need to understand that there is the very real possibility that your own mother is using you in an attempt to change these kids for her own benefit. The reason I say that is because I saw it happen in my family. My grandmother would manipulate my father against my mother. My mother would try to manipulate my brother and me against my father and grandmother. My grandmother would try to manipulate myself against my mother and brother. My father would then try to manipulate me against my mother as well. At the end of the day, I didn't manipulate anyone and just sat back and watched as everyone in the family was trying to rewire my mind to service their own agenda. The people I respected the most while growing up were often my male high school teachers in the tech wing of the school. They never tried manipulating me to do their bidding and become their zombies or act in any way that was not beneficial to me. They allowed me to express my own free will and I respected them for it. Here you are, Gronk Juice, trying to reprogram your niece because you're worried about the way that her mother is programming her. In the grand scheme of things, you might influence about 5 to 10% of her, maybe 20% of her motivations in life, if you're lucky. But you mentioned something disturbing when you said that she had already claimed ownership of you as if you were her property. Is it possible that your mother also sees you as her property, there to take care of her into her old age? You want to help your 10-year-old niece and she also sees you as her property. If that's true, then how is she going to respect what you actually have to say if she sees you as an object for her amusement? It sounds to me like you should be helping your nephew out a lot more because he might need a proper male role model and a friend to help him get out of trouble as he gets older. This just proves to me that we as men often put the well-being of women and female family members well ahead of the welfare and well-being of our own male family or clan members. We see the female as more valuable and therefore demanding more of our resources and our attention. Gronkjuice, you probably don't even have your own kids, yet here you are worrying about your brother's kids and getting sucked up into family politics. Even if a man goes his own way, there's still his mother, siblings, nieces, and nephews to suck him back onto the plantation. Not only is the man that has children with a wife, or women in general, controlled by women, but so is his brother, even if he doesn't have kids. Or a guy that has a mother and it's his responsibility to take care of her. I have a friend that's almost 40 years old, unmarried, making well into six figures, yet chooses to live with his mother because if he didn't, his sister would drive his mother absolutely insane. So here he is helping out his mother and protecting her, and yet she doesn't actually have to do anything. She didn't even ask for his help. His own conscience got to him and basically shows me what depths men are willing to go to in order to protect women. A man can be easily controlled through children that aren't even his own. That's the real revelation behind your question as well as your comments. Even if that man is a self-proclaimed sociopath, you also mentioned that your niece follows you around like a puppy dog, and that's probably because you give her attention. You must know that in a year or so, she's going to bud breasts, and that bond you have with her right now is going to basically burn up in smoke like a woman burning a bra back in the 1960s. So enjoy this time as much as you can because once kids become teenagers, their hormones make them a lot tougher to bond with. They exit the stage where they learn how to socialize as an adult and begin socializing as one. The same thing will probably happen to your nephew, but you can still volunteer to take him fishing or do other activities that you both like because that will allow you to continue to teach things to him and have a relationship with him into the future. Also, it's quite possible that you could have a closer relationship to him than his own father, your brother, because his mother could be working hard to turn him against him. To turn him against his own father is one thing, but it's a lot more work to turn a kid against an entire side of the family. That takes a lot more work and puts her in a very difficult position, especially if someday you or your mother could potentially leave him an inheritance or there could be other benefits to that arrangement. Right now, you're providing what amounts to free babysitting services. Your niece and nephew's mother sees that you have some sort of utility value. So long as you continue to provide that, you will remain in their lives. In the future, when they no longer need babysitting, you might actually have to think of some other ways to become useful to them, otherwise your sister-in-law could put your relationship with them on the cutting block. You probably want to keep this relationship with them, and the odds are pretty high that your sister-in-law knows this. She might make demands on you later that once again could turn you into a useful idiot, unable to say no because you'll actually want to see your blood relatives once again. The power women use on men with regards to love doesn't simply extend to their husbands and sons, but as you've proven to me, men can also be used by women simply because he's an uncle. So men that are going their own way also need to understand that it's not enough to simply be cautious about the women that are around you and that you might be casually dating. But if you're related to or socially responsible to women around you, then you have to be on your best behavior and understand how she can still use you and control you. Your niece is also practicing her ability to get your attention away from her brother and put it on herself. Girls that age also try to get their father's attention away from their mothers. I think you give way too much credit to your niece when you said that she follows you around like a puppy dog. It's the opposite. She wants you to give her attention, so she's pretending to be interested in what you're doing. As I said earlier, in a few years, that attention that you're getting right now will probably turn to ridicule and her flat out ignoring you. That makes perfect sense from a biological point of view, because a woman needs to leverage her sexual marketplace value as quickly as possible so she can find a quality mate. Before modern times, a woman in her early teens was already thinking about marriage. Just because women get married on average now in their mid to late 20s doesn't mean that they've lost their natural instincts to pair up younger in their lives. In ancient Athens, women were often married between the ages of 14 and 16. Before that, they were already being engaged for marriage. That's about all I have to say on this particular topic. Now I'd like to draw everyone's attention quickly to an article called "New Research Suggests Monogamy Killed the Penis Bone in Humans," unquote. Most people don't realize that when you get a boner, that at one point in our evolutionary past, you actually had a bone down there. Apparently this article, as per the title, is suggesting that monogamy is the reason that we have no bacula or penis bone. The researchers also say that the average human penetration lasts about 2 minutes or less, while in other animals it often lasts longer than 3 minutes. Apparently, having longer sex sessions not only ups your chance to reproduce, but keeps the female away from other males. The theory is that we lost our penis bone about 1.9 million years ago when we became monogamous. I think it's absolutely insane to think that the average guy only spends 2 minutes inside of a woman. For me, 20 minutes to half an hour is a great duration. Maybe women really mean it when they make fun of guys that don't last that very long. But secretly, they probably don't want the guy to last that long because then they don't actually have to spend so much time having sex. They can spend that time doing other things like getting headaches and washing their hair. I think this article is complete bullshit, but I'd like to hear everyone's opinions on it. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Gronk Juice, for your donation as well as your topic. Don't forget to check out the MGTOW mystery link and like this video. As for everyone else out there, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the useful idiots away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.